Hello,
Hi,
hello. Good morning and welcome. Greetings, because we never know when you're watching this, right? And in which time zone you're in the world, because we're all citizens of the world. How are you today, Tammy?
I'm doing great. So it's a little rainy outside here today, but I'm in a nice, warm, cozy place, and I'm excited because we have a wonderful guest today. And I've been looking forward to having her on our show. We have Julie.
Me too. Welcome, Julie. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. Delighted to be here from a very cold and misty 6 p.m. in the Netherlands, Holland.
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing.
Your weather sounds similar to mine, Julie. And
Well,
how's your weather, Lori?
oh, it's pleasant. It's pleasant. I'm not, it's warmer than you guys, but it's so great. And here in Unlocking Freedom in Nature, we're all about discovering, experiencing, and transforming. And we want to hear today about Julie's experience in life. She said she has a long story, so brace yourself. We're going to be here like 24 hours, she said. Telling us about all her not really, so don't worry.
No, no, no.
And then she's going to tell us about her journey in life, also as a citizen of the world, traveling and living in different places, and what is it that she does, and how is it that she loves nature and incorporates it in her life.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to sharing. Yeah, nature, I think, probably is the red thread through my 57 years so far. But I still feel I'm 15 and wondering what to do with my life. So I think that's a good sort of spirit and mindset to have. But indeed, I have moved around a lot and I'm happy to share it. Some of it was with my family, some of it was then with my spouse, and then the rest of it was my choice, let's say. And at some point, it does become ingrained in your DNA, as in until recently, until my third move to the Netherlands, I had never lived anywhere more than 7 years. So basically, nature was what I took with me wherever I went. You know, the sky above me, the sun that shines, and the moon and the stars, they were the constant in my life. And they always helped me find my feet again wherever I was, whether I lived in Cameroon, Uganda, Senegal, Germany, Spain, Austria. I mean, I can go on a long time. But that's why, yes, I do have a very strong attachment to nature and how it can help us on our life path.
You said a word that I love, the only, because I always like to remind people the only constant in life is change, which is kind of like paradoxical or a little dichotomy there. But you said it. You said that nature was your constant no matter where in the world you were, and I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
And the changes of nature as well, right? You know,
Ex-
maybe in Africa, for example, we didn't have the seasons, and I did miss
True.
that. But there was still a season of a sort. There was rainy season and dry season. So you
Perfect.
do get into tune, and particularly as women, I do find, I mean, for everyone, it's important, but women in particular, I think it's taken me quite a while to understand actually to what extent we are regulated and helped by understanding the cycles of nature and how we can use them for our own development and when to embark on big projects and when to be a little bit more about self-care and nurturing.
Yeah,
Wow.
nature teaches so much. If you look at the seasons, like I live in a four-season area, and each one has its own things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But but I've lived where it was only two seasons, it felt like more. Um, so yeah, nature teaches us so many things whenever you just walk outside or look out that
Exactly.
window. So where did you grow up?
Well, there we are. So by the age of 7, I'd already moved 13 times, but
Wow.
then it was around the United Kingdom. So I lived in different places in England. My parents had me very young at university. They just started. So it was a question of making things work, right? So I was just sort of basically a 60s baby, lugged around from left, right to center. And then we moved to France. So France was basically my educational base. When aged 14, we moved to the Netherlands, my first tour in the Netherlands, but I did still go to a French school. And once I graduated from the French high school, I went first to a French university. And then it opened up more and more. So France is actually still where the family is based. And then I embarked on my own adventure of moving around. And I'm a eternally curious person, and I love traveling. All my earnings go into traveling because I find there's so many wonderful places to see and people to meet. And so yes, that has been more or less the line. So I was, let's say, brought up between England, France, and the Netherlands, if we're talking
Wow.
about childhood.
What was the impact of all that cultural enrichment and cultural immersion? How did
Well,
it
that
help you in
depends.
life? Hmm.
Yeah, if it's seen through the eyes of a helpless teenager who doesn't actually want to move, or whether it's
Oh.
seen through the eyes of the adult who then really realizes the gift that it gives you. And I have a bit the same thing with my children because we also dragged them from Holland to Cameroon, Uganda, Senegal, Berlin, and back to Holland. And they are now, as older teenagers, well, no, not teenagers, rubbish, they're in their 20s, all three of them. They're actually very grateful. And they say it has brought them what I find it's brought me, a lot of open-mindedness, a lot of yes, let's say congeniality. I'm curious about people. I love talking with people about who they are, what they do, why they do it, what makes them tick. And it makes you a lot more tolerant because the more you know about other people and other cultures, the less scary it is. And it doesn't mean you have to endorse everything. There are lots of cultures I've come across which I would not, take on as my own, but we respect where it comes from and why they're doing it. So I think especially nowadays in a world which is increasingly at loggerheads, with each other and with wars and frustrations and a lot of anxiety. I think that, if there has that openness, that dialogue, and that embracing differences and not automatically condemning them because we don't understand them and they frighten us, I think the world might be a much better place.
Wonderful. I agree. I agree with you. So what do you
I
do
do.
with those differences? Sorry, Tammy, I
I
want.
embrace them. I
Mhm.
embrace them. I embrace them. And it doesn't mean that everything's always rosy. I know sometimes I feel very different to other people in my environment. If I'm in
Mhm.
an environment which is a lot more mobile, for example, than what I've been used to, sometimes I struggle to be interested by things that they're interested in because my world seems so much bigger. And I'm not saying that was condescension to the others, but it's just sometimes I am at a bit of a loss of, okay, I don't want to talk about, my latest washing machine or, just things which are normal and very polite and totally, part of normal society. I like to go straight for the
Deep.
really intense and the deep and the,
Yes. Oh,
Love it.
we would get along very well, Julie, because I don't do very well with small talk. I am a very intense and deep person
yeah,
too, but part of it is also adapting and it's also
yeah,
learning how to have those conversations. How
yeah.
would you, in a society where, like you said, there's a lot of interesting approaches and concepts on differences in cultural, etc., where people are wanting you they want to shove down their throat like some ideas, some cultural ideologies and differences. In a world where it's becoming like that, or they want us to think it's becoming like that, what is a diplomatic or polite way to just agree to disagree sometimes, or to respect each other's views and not tampering or crossing that line?
I use curiosity. So when somebody,
Perfect.
comes to me with a topic or, let's talk about elections, let's not get into politics, but okay,
No.
radically different thought than me. Instead of fainting and thinking, okay, I'm going to leave this room immediately, I was like, oh, now that's really interesting. So, what is it about that? And then you get into a very open conversation where you can also say, well, personally, that's absolutely, or that's not my preference. But okay, so this and this, and it's again, it's that curiosity. It's giving them the space to actually express what they feel, and then they're at ease and they feel heard at least, and then they open to you. Okay, so you think radically different. What is it about, the other side, etc.? And then it makes for a conversation where indeed the idea at the end is you agree to disagree. So you're not losing ground, you're not giving in to other person's idea, you're holding your ground, but with respect, with openness, and with curiosity.
Right.
I
So when you're asking those
Mhm.
questions, it's keeping that conversation going
Yeah.
and you're learning more about them, why they are thinking this way or that way,
Yeah.
because a lot of times it depends on who they're surrounded with, how they were raised, or, what's affecting them at that moment.
Yeah.
And a
And
lot of
especially
times people
strong
forget
topics.
that.
Yeah. And the particularly strong topics, like indeed, religion, politics, etc., we tend to be very emotion based. So, what the other person says triggers us and we lash out or we run away, etc. And when we express curiosity, we're taking it back a step. We're actually almost bringing in the mental, element into it instead of just being triggered by our emotions. And emotions are wonderful, but sometimes they can overrule us and make us sometimes say things that, afterwards we wish we had somehow presented differently. So not the content, but how we delivered it.
Well,
Uh,
listening is the key to learning more about everybody, and whether
Right,
it's even just your
right.
teenager, right? Your child, your partners, spouses, whoever, friends.
Yeah.
If we don't sit there and ask questions and listen, we'll really never get to know that person
Yeah.
because you won't have those deep conversations.
And
and
always look for the common ground, I would say.
Yes.
In particular, I mean, we're all human, right? We all want a safe environment for our families, for our children. We all want to have access to water and so I think that there's a lot that we do have in common, and we have a tendency to forget about all of that. It's a bit that cliche, but Sting's song during the Cold War, let's say, I hope the Russians love their children too. And when you start from that sort of basis, then you can look for, okay, where can we bridge the gap and where can we agree to disagree without either side feeling that they're totally, having to give in on their own values and beliefs.
those are
Right.
great reminders, Julie. And I appreciate you thinking that and sharing and reminding us about finding the common ground. And that is a great way or point of departure, right? At the same time, I want to encourage everyone. And then if you want to leave a comment with your suggestions on how is it that you have benefited from the differences? Because imagine if every doctor is a cardiologist, then there wouldn't be podiatrists or there wouldn't be pneumologists, which are specialists in the lungs. So if anyone is different, I mean, yes, we need to benefit from the common ground. Those doctors or with those examples is like they want to save lives. They know the medicines, the general medicine and practices, but some have specialized in different things and all contribute. So if we can also understand that our differences will contribute to something in our lives, or may, or can, or if some of the differences can become strength and to contribute and create a balance in life, it's also a good way to see it and agree on, wow, so your strength is this, or your
Yeah,
perspective is this, and your viewpoints are these based on your life experiences. We need you in this XYZ organization or group or program because, or in my life. Or
yeah,
you can decide, hey, it's so great that you do that. We're not a good fit for each other and move on with our lives in different pathways, right?
exactly. Exactly. And also, I mean, I would say even closest to home, I think, I mean, I am now divorced from my ex, well, from my then husband, very amicably, etc. But I remember when I was in a phase of, oh, I can't believe he thinks like this, and I can't believe he does that. Somebody was sort of saying to me, embrace those differences as broadening your horizon. They're making us richer. And wouldn't the world be an extraordinarily boring place if we were all clones of each other? We'd have nothing to talk about.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, and then also people on the other side, if you're constantly arguing with somebody or whining or complaining, nobody wants to really be around you.
No, exactly.
You
Exactly.
know?
Yeah. And we don't want to role model that to our children either, do we? I mean, I think
No.
more than ever, we need a society where, we do talk about things.
Right. Without get punching or
Yeah, yeah,
yelling,
yeah,
screaming, calling names,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
Oh my goodness, it would be such a more lovely world. And I think we're becoming, and I think we have the potential and the capacity, and we're learning
Yeah,
to appreciate and embrace differences. But at the same time, learning to have those difficult conversations. We teach in the parent-teen and connection adventures and retreats we're going to talk a lot about communication and pitching and catching is what I call it, and how to put a gear on. So a pitcher and a catcher, if you think of baseball, you don't start, the players don't start throwing the ball until everybody has geared up with the proper equipment to not be hit or to not be damaged. But the game has its risks, right? The game is about pitching and catching and batting and throwing a ball, but you have to be prepared. So this communication needs to happen. And sometimes we avoid hard conversations. We avoid the sensation or the idea that we're going to disagree, but sometimes it just breaks so many barriers to help you get to a better connection and relationship. So
I
I love
believe it's
this.
even the recipe to happiness, to be honest. I took
Yeah.
myself away once because I've worked in very many capacities all over the world, and I took myself away for 5 days, about 5 years ago now, to try and work out, well, what is the red thread through Julie, and I came out with connection and communication. Connection with yourself and communication with yourself, as in what are you saying to yourself all day long,
Mm.
and connection and communication with others. And my entire company is based on that.
Okay, so you said something about red threads. You want to
Yeah.
explain to us what that is in this
Well, I think
context?
most people, I mean, I did sort of start out working. I mean, I've got a business degree. I started out working in corporate as a management consultant, reorganizing, or in those days, basically firing people. And then we embarked on this overseas thing. So my ex-husband's a diplomat still now. And so we were moving all the time. So I always found a job, but, different things basically. So you come back with a huge CV. I speak 5 languages. I have worked in, I don't know how many different fields, a lot in development, a lot in women empowerment, sales, I mean, everything really, name it more or less. But I was feeling a little bit like a firework. I have a huge amount of energy still at 57, but sometimes I feel like, somebody says, "Oh, would you like to do this?" And I sort of tap into myself. Do I not? Yes, I do. And zoom, I do it. And that's basically the way my whole, let's say, career post corporate has developed, is that I don't know if you know human design, but I'm a projector. So basically I get invited to do things and I need to tap into myself and think, okay, does this feel good? And if yes, I do it. So basically my career has gone in different directions depending on what I've been asked, but all along. So I was looking for the red thread, like, yes, but I'm not a headless chicken. It's not just that I say yes to everything. So what is the red thread? What is the common factor? And that's when I came down to absolutely everything I've been doing since I was at school, when class rep and all of that is about connection and communication.
And
Mm.
so I love it. What I love is the fact that you have no fear, or it doesn't mean you don't have fear. You're willing to take those challenges. I've done millions of things like you, Julie, um, to where people are like, how did you do all of those things? But what they
Yeah.
don't realize is you get asked to do different things and you're like, oh, well, okay. Doesn't mean we say yes to everything. There was a time I did do that, which I learned how to say no.
Yeah.
But this quote had came up today. There is no illusion greater than fear.
Yeah.
Um, because
And
so
fear
many
is what
times,
holds us back, right? I mean, that I'm very big about that. So now all the different things that I've done have got me to this sort of 50 plus transformation, because it's my group. And I see too many women in particular of my age who are starting to feel like, oh, if only I had, and I mean, my grandmother turned 98 3 weeks ago, which means that if I follow her footsteps, I have another 41 years.
Oh my
I
goodness.
love it.
No, I feel
That's
like,
a
well,
great perspective.
yeah, what do I want to do with those 41 years? I'm not just sitting here, knitting booties and waiting for the grandchildren.
And
You
not to
know,
say that that's wrong. If you want to knit
no,
booties, that's
no, it's
okay. But that's not
beautiful
what
to
Julie
do.
wants to do.
No, exactly. We can all do so much more. And I'm surrounded by women who've radically, changed careers, changed whatever it is. I'm not saying either that you have to break everything up because you're over 50, right? But if you feel in you that there's still, that song which hasn't been sung, don't hold yourself back because you're over 50. So that's everything that I do. It's really connecting. And, to come back to nature, it's about tapping into yourself.
Mm.
It's who am I really? When we put aside what I've been told I am, all the bad experiences I've had where I've maybe thought, what is the part of me who thinks there is still more? And it's indeed that all this thought has been provoked by what you've just said is, who would we be if we didn't know fear? Right?
Oh,
Well,
yes.
it's so funny. It's like, I don't know if you were surrounded. I had people when I turned 40 that were like, oh, you need to cut your hair off, let it go gray, and accept you're old. I was like,
No
no,
way, Jose.
no. And when people that are even in their 60s or 70s are sitting there complaining, well, I can't do this because I'm too old or I might get hurt. I'm like, and I was talking to my grandkids who are teenagers this weekend, and they're complaining. Noah's like, oh, my shoulder hurts because I did this and this and that. I'm like laughing. I'm like, what people forget is we had injuries, we had soreness when we were teenagers. It's not just when you're 50 or 60 or
No.
70. It's happened our whole lives. It's
Yeah.
just maybe you're taking more time to notice it or you're using it as an excuse. Because
Yeah.
I'm like you, I know people that are like 90. This one lady that goes to our post office is like 99 years old and she mails a card, goes in there every day and mails cards to people to share kindness, happy birthday or Thanksgiving or whatever. She's always doing things to help others. And she looks like she's 70. It's when you
Yeah.
sit on that
It's the mindset,
couch.
right? It's how old do you feel? Are you
Yes.
looking
But
forward
in
or
a
are you only looking back and ruminating and regretting or whatsoever? I believe there's no room for that. I'm also a Buddhist, a Nichiren Buddhist, where it's all about, every day is a new day and we owe it to ourselves to do what we call our human revolution, which, for some might be spectacular and they might change the world. But for most of us, it's just a question of every day turning up as a slightly better version of the day than the day before.
well, and we might change somebody's life just by being kind to that one person or
Yeah, yeah,
listening to them or
exactly.
helping them or
It's
being
the power of one,
an
right? The power of
example,
one.
right?
Yeah. No, beautiful thoughts. And then, you were talking about that lady of 90 plus and her cards. It's also something that I value with this age group that I'm in now is that maybe for most of us, the career crazy part is maybe fading a little bit and we're doing other things or deciding that that's enough of corporate. Let's do something I really want to do or take an online job and travel the world or whatsoever, which is what I'm doing. Or, it's just the whole idea of tapping into all that you can be, right? But that idea of that kindness, that's what I like with the 50 plus as well. It's also contributing. How can we, with the years that we have had, give back with that? How can we help, let's say, even young parents? I realize that the parents nowadays, let's say, of young children compared to when I was a young parent 20 odd years ago, there's a lot more challenges around having time, right? Our society is very fast. You're on your phone constantly. Work expects you to be present all the time. It's a lot less, weekend is weekend and we all go to the park or to the museum, etc. And I think we also have a role in there of how we can contribute to society nowadays by being a bit of a mentor, even in a nicer way than parents, right? Because we tend to judge, yes, less as grandparents, our children than we do our own. And it's about being there and giving back and sharing our stories so that they can also help other people find their way.
I agree with that so much, and I love that you mention it because you are talking about looking forward. You have 40 something more years to
Yeah.
go. At the same time, all your life experiences in the business, professional, and personal, you have a plethora of experiences, knowledge, and wisdom where you can mentor others to save them time. Listen, this is the way that I've done it. This is the way that I foresee or can't say or can't tell you that you can avoid certain pitfalls. And I know people sometimes like to learn from their own experiences, but that's the benefit we bring to the table.
Yeah, no,
Excuse me, Julie,
exactly.
or you bring to the table.
Yeah, and
So,
we all do. We all have a
mhm.
story to share. We all have words that we can share. And it's indeed, I liked what you said as well. It doesn't mean that they have to do it, because young people in particular are quite resistant to that. And it is true that we do all need to forge our own way. I remember thinking, I wish I could protect my children from this and that, until I realized, no, they have to find their own way in order to be, young global adults who know clearly who they are and what they stand for. So I think
Well,
that's absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
well, it's kind of like my sister. I was talking to my sister, and she's like a therapist. And she was saying that one of the biggest things that she's noticed is parents that don't give their kids chores in the
Yeah.
house. And she said that because they think it's more of an abuse or whatever. And she said, but what they're missing out on is they're not teaching those kids to help with chores, to be a part of a team, a family that we all pitch in. Otherwise, they grow up to be entitled. And I
Exactly.
was like, oh, it's so true. So if they don't,
Yeah.
if you're always making their beds, doing the dishes and everything
Exactly.
else for them, then they think everybody else should do everything for them, in society. So then
Yeah.
they
I'm
look
so
at
glad
it.
you shared that, because that's actually personally, that was one of my big things. So my three children, I had them all three within 5 years. They were brought up in Africa. So, okay, diplomatic service, Africa, you have a house full of staff. And I probably had more than usual because I wanted to support more families than usual. Um, and so, of course, literally you could not do anything. And I had to have, each time that we moved to a different African country, that conversation of, help me raise my children to be good citizens. So from the moment that they could walk, they would set the table, they would clear the table. Sure, somebody did the cleaning, because in Africa there's a lot of African dust, so it has to be done every day. But they had to tidy their bedroom first. And if they didn't do it, the bedroom wouldn't be cleaned that day. And my friend said, gosh, you're so tough with your children. And now they thank me. And, I have two boys and a girl. They cook. They iron, they know how to do everything. And as the boys say, this is great for scoring with the girlfriends, because the girls are like, wow, a guy who can cook and who knows how to iron shirts. So it is about helping them grow up. If we do everything for them, how on earth are they going to cope? And it's a lot harder to learn that things aren't as it was or seemed at home at the age of 20 something than learning as a 5-year-old. Yes, I do need to tidy my own clothes, my own toys away in the evening, so that we can, walk to the dining table without having pieces of Lego stuck between our toes, which is extremely painful.
Absolutely. So I like both aspects too of life, like the professional aspect and the personal. You shared with us what you did with your children. How do you translate that into clients and mentorship? Not enabling them, helping them understand they have full potential and capabilities and capacities, and then how do you transfer what you did with your children, which is amazing. Tammy and I both have our own children, and they're grown adults now too, or I still have teenagers, but it's just great concepts that we agree on, and the three of us agree on right now, giving them chores and responsibilities and having expectations for them is great. When you're out there watching this, remember, yes, it's great to give our children timelines, time frames, and say, hey, you're a boomerang young adult. You came back home because you're in a hard, difficult moment in your life, but let's set a time frame. Let's just set some terms and conditions. And even as teenagers, when they were finally allowed to have cell phones, we have a whole agreement to sign for that with them when they started driving. I mean, it's just amazing how, and I think they're very functional adults right now,
Right.
and grateful too. How about you with your clients? How do you translate that into your
So I
mentorship and
know this
profession?
is a polite thing, but this is one of the one occasions where I sometimes use a naughty word, but I will rephrase, I would say own your da 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 da. But by that I mean, take responsibility. And that I am huge on with my clients. I'm
Mm,
known as a very listening, emphatic person, but I have an absolute repulsive reaction to victims. I believe that indeed not everything happens like we want it in life.
mhm.
Where some of us more than other are confronted with things that we really did not choose, but we do always, 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 however the horror, we do have a choice what we make it
Yes,
mean for us now. And that
yes,
is really one of my big things. It's owning all of who we are, the good and the bad, and also accepting that even out of the bad, we have learned something. We have learned something that we can share with others. We have learned something which might help us be more emphatic to people in the same situation. We have always learned something. So it doesn't mean that we're grateful for what happened to us if it was something horrible, right? But actually in my Buddhism as well, we do actually, or we're taught to welcome obstacles as an opportunity for growth, because we don't really grow from the good things, right? We just feel good. We're like, oh, wow, it worked out just like I wanted. But we do learn from the challenges that we learn to overcome. So that's that mindset, or that tool, let's say, or way of looking at life that I wanted to give my children. With my clients, it is all about looking at, what you've maybe buried really deep. I mean, I'm not a psychotherapist or whatsoever, but, in as far as possible, okay, what happened? What did it then mean? How can you take something out of that? And now what you want? That's the big difference between coaching and, therapy, is that coaching, you go from now knowing this and this, having had this and this, now where do you want to go? And so it's looking forward. And it does all come from taking responsibility, because a lot of us do prefer blaming, our mothers, our education, our partners, the system, the corruption, the whatever. Lots of things are outside our control, but a lot of things can still be done. What do you personally want to change? And it's standing up. It's the power of one. That doesn't mean you say something, really provocative in an environment which might be dangerous for you. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's all about honoring who you are and all of who you are. So yes, owning your is a big mantra of mine with my clients.
Yes, owning
You
your
can say what you
own
want.
stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is that whether we've hidden it, pushed it under, whatever, it's still there, and it's dimming our light. And the more you go forward in life, the more it's heavy to drag all these bad things around with us. So it's a question of looking at them and saying, okay, I see you. What have you taught me? Thank you for the lesson. Goodbye. And
Mhm.
let it go.
And it makes us more empathetic and more
Yes,
compassionate.
yes,
I've heard it many, many times. I've said it many times. Like it helps if we take advantage of those messes and turn them into our magic and our messages,
yes,
to
exactly.
help others. Also, because we say, hey, I don't. I didn't go through exactly what you're going through, but I can relate because this
Relate
is
to
what
it.
happened to
Yeah.
me. So we become more relatable. And you said something that reminded me of a saying that goes, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. And I love that because a skilled sailor is admired or is rewarded because their ability to have been able to survive in very stormy and,
Yeah.
and tumultuous waters. And that's us in life. When we have gone through adversity, when we have been able to be successful and survive the injustices or things that are not under our control, and we take ownership of the things that we do have control over, we're going to be successful, we're going to be fulfilled, and we're going to tap into that higher self,
Yeah.
and go to a higher level. So I love that. Thank you so
And we're
much.
going to have one of the skills which I think is the most important to have, well, after empathy, etc., which is resilience. Because none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. Right? None of us know. So the more you've fallen
Mm,
and learned how to stand
yes.
up again, the more resilient you are. And then you think, well, okay, come what may. I trust that I will have the ability to cope with it. That doesn't mean that I will be able to do it alone. Maybe I need to take a course. Maybe I need to find somebody to help me, whatever. But that I, as identity, will not be shattered by it.
Right. We don't control anything. We might
No,
think we do, but we don't,
no, we
And
don't.
like you said, don't play the blame game, always blaming others. Take
Yeah.
responsibility. And the other, don't live in the past,
Yeah, otherwise you're
because
disempowering yourself. It's not about being good to other people. It's about how can we fully thrive. And that is what I'm all about. It's that can do thing. Yes, sometimes it's very hard, but we can do it and we owe it to ourselves and basically to life. Life is a gift.
Mm.
We owe to live it to the full.
How about the people that understand these concepts and take ownership and try to have a little bit of control over some things that they could have control over, but they decide, which basically I'm answering myself, because that means they don't have full control because they're waiting for the perfect conditions, time, circumstances. They're waiting on someone else. they're
It's keeping
waiting
us
until
safe.
this. Yeah. So what would you
They're keeping
tell
us
the
safe, but that's basically, nothing will keep us safe. No one is going to save us. I mean, that is a true reality. No one is going to save us. Not our partner, not nothing. It's we need to be all the resources that we need. And then we love ourselves. Then we can open up to loving other people, and those other people enhance our happiness. But our happiness will never come through the perfect match, the perfect job, the perfect car, the perfect holiday. It will enhance our own natural happiness. But our own natural happiness comes through loving ourselves. And that means loving all aspects of ourselves. The things we wish later we hadn't done or said, sure, but then at least honor that person who at that time thought she was making the best decision.
and then instead of waiting, that means take
There's no
action.
wait. Well,
Take
you'll spend your
action.
whole life waiting. Take action because it's all about keeping ourselves safe, right? So if we're always saying, I'm waiting for the best moment, I'm waiting for the right conditions, I'm waiting for this, we're just self-sabotaging in a way because we're putting off something that we know we need to do. I mean, it's funny you say that because I've spent a little bit of today looking for a plastic frog. And I'd had coffee with my daughter, and she's like, what's all of this about the frogs? We went into 3 shops. And I said, don't you know the expression, eat the frog? I said, one of my next posts is me pretending to eat, but I prefer not a real one, a frog. And that means do what you don't want to do first.
What is
It's called eat the frog. And eat the frog basically means do every day the thing you know you should do, but you don't want to do it first. So you eat the frog first, and there we are. Got out of the way. The rest of the day's smooth sailing, right? Like
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and what you said, another thing that you said, is every day is a gift. And it doesn't matter what your age, treat every day as a gift because now we're not guaranteed the next day.
yeah.
So always live to the fullest each day. And I love it. Yes, I always say do the thing that you find the hardest first so it's done and over with. Otherwise, I'm guilty of this.
Yeah.
I will find reasons not to.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuses,
Exactly.
distractions,
Yeah,
squirrel.
this
And there's a
distraction
quote
here.
as well, a quote I always get wrong. I mean, I want to get into gratitude in a second, but just before I forget, because I have that a lot in this new online business that I'm involved in. A lot of it is taking me radically outside my comfort zone. And there is a saying which I remember hanging up on or writing actually on the mirror back home with the children. It's something about if you want to have tomorrow the things that other people don't have, do today what the others won't do. Something around that,
Right.
right?
Yes, I
Yes,
know that
yes.
one.
And that really is it, right? If you want something different, you're going to have to do something different. You can hope that doing the same thing, banging your head against the wall in exactly the same way will at some point work, but it doesn't. And it's even what Einstein defines as madness, right? It's doing the same thing every day and hoping for a different result. But what you said, Tammy, there did bring me on to one of the things that I'm also extremely passionate about and drive my poor children mad about, even though they're grown up and live elsewhere. Every day they have to send me an app telling me at the end of the day what are the 5 things they're grateful for. I'm a huge believer in gratitude. Gratitude for what we have, which puts us in a better life state, in a vibrancy life state, which then automatically attracts the things that we do want, rather than constantly looking over our shoulder, comparing to others, saying that you've had bad luck in life and look, that didn't work out and that didn't work out. Because at the end of the day, does that make you feel good? I guess not. So what does make us feel good? And you can be grateful for the silliest things, for a sliver of sunshine, for a little plant growing between the weeds, to come back to nature. Nature is a wonderful thing to help us be grateful for. For Mother Nature, which we're doing our utmost best to destroy, but who is still there, who is still, shining her sun, growing her leaves and, replenishing the planet. And there is so much to be grateful for, just the chance that we can breathe. And for my friends who are talking about, oh, I feel so old. I'm like, we're super lucky and privileged to be 57 or 60 or whatever. Lots of people in the world do not get to that age with that level of well-being and health. It's a privilege. It's a gift. So be grateful for it. And make that day
Yes.
count.
Definitely.
Make every day count in whichever way. You were talking about kindness before. I love that. just the simple smiling to somebody on a bus. That person might then smile to the person sitting next to them at the next stop, and that person might then smile to someone else. And that's how just one tiny little costless smile can set about this whole, snowball effect of joy and happiness, instead of lashing out at one person who will then probably lash out at the next person she meets, and again and again and again. And there we are. Then you've unleashed a ball of fire, which has made, 50 or so people feel bad that day. And that is also responsibility, right? It's the power of what we can do.
Sorry about my cat there.
Yeah, I just want to, if anyone knows a company that sells amazing, I don't eat it, but because my preferences, but there's a company very, very popular on fried chicken, and the person that started it didn't become famous or whatever or accepted or given an opportunity until he was in his 60s. And I invite you to research a lot of people that started making it after 50s, and
Totally.
because of their perseverance, because of their work ethics, because of opportunity, and they embrace the opportunity, being at the right place at the right time, and also do their own efforts and actions. And again, I'm going to say that word again, perseverance. Tammy and I say to each other, I need to remind to each other, we're not going anywhere, right? We're in this together, and we're going to continue enduring and learning new ways, and trying new and different approaches. And that is what matters most, showing up. I love that you have said repeated times, Julie, the word tapping into and connection and communicating with yourself. And I agree with you. One thing also that says a tip that I have posted it here in my office, it says if it doesn't bring peace, profit, purpose, or play, then don't give it your time, energy, or attention. And man, how many people are swallowed in pity or in toxic environments, or with people that are not your cheerleaders, people that are just the naysayers, bringing you down, pulling you down, because they're not doing anything themselves to make a difference, and they don't want to encourage you to make a difference or to live life to the fullest or to their fullest potential. So we want you, and I love also how you said, Julie, that if you can't do it on your own, get a mentor, get a coach, get help, so you can somebody else can help you shine, knowing that you have some light inside, but it's dim right now because you're tired.
There's no excuse not to, right?
Because you're suppressing, right? You have been ignoring that for so long that you're ready to let it out. Just let's do it. Let's do it. Find the help, find the resource, find the program, the coach, or the mentor to help you accomplish that.
Yeah.
Well, and what people forget is you don't ask people that have never been in your shoes, have never done what you're looking like. You don't go and ask somebody to build a website that's never done a website. You don't ask somebody that's never done marketing, or it's their first time to do your marketing. So there's all these things. It's like you don't go and ask somebody to be your dentist when they've never even taken a class, and people forget that. And a lot of times they get their advice from their friends or family, and then those people are putting them down or giving them their opinions, more like it, or advice. And it's nice that they give those opinions, but
I agree.
Don't argue with them. Just
like we were saying earlier about disagreeing, and then say, thank you for that warning. I appreciate you caring enough.
People do want to keep us safe as well, don't they? People do want to keep us safe. It's all well-meaning. When I started this online business, my goodness, everybody was like, my gosh, it's a scam, it's a this, it's a that. I said, do your due diligence, certainly look and, research before you embark in anything whatsoever. But then, listen to people who have got what you want, and not to those who are just stopping you for often well-meaning. It's not just people want to keep you small so that they can shine more or whatever, but it's really, don't listen to those who are just going to keep you small, because it's, again, if we come back to nature, it's surround yourself with the right environment, right? So you give yourself the right water, the right soil, so that you can blossom. And nature is very good at that. She will choose, where's the best place to have her seeds, so that the majority of them will flourish. And that all comes back to, it's so easy to feel overwhelmed nowadays, right? By the millions of things we can do, etc. But it's when you go back in nature and you connect with something which has existed since the beginning of time, I love the sea. I love the ebb and flow of the sea. So sometimes the sea is a big wave and it comes surfing forward, and sometimes it just gets gentle and it merges back into the whole. And that's also how we Buddhists see death, right? It's not separate from life. They're both the same things. It's both the sea. It's just sometimes it's visible and manifested as a wave and sometimes not. And I find that personally very reassuring, especially when you're people with either lots of ideas and thoughts, like I have the feeling you two also are, right? Sometimes I get, there's still so much I want to do and so many places I want to go, and I get a bit like, oof. And then all I need is a walk in nature, whether it's that smell of now it's autumn, the autumn leaves, which have given us much beauty, which are now decomposing, which are nurturing the soil, which will bring new leaves out next year, or the sea, or whichever part, even a park where you just sit for 5 minutes and watch the bees doing their stuff, the flies doing their stuff. It's extremely soothing and it puts us back into context. And I think that sometimes we take our own lives and what's happening to us far too seriously. In the big picture of things, is that little thing which drove you berserk today and gave you a headache, is it really worth the battle? Or is it one of those that you can let go and just enjoy what's to be enjoyed? Because that's what life's all about, right? And it's only in the present that we can be happy. We can remember happiness and we can predict happiness, but the only moment we can feel it is now. And we can't feel that if we're constantly rushing around, if we're not making space to just sit and feel it.
So I have a question because you have gotten me curious. What is one of your favorite places that you've gone on adventures to?
I'm terrible with that. I hate being asked to choose. It's awful. It's really
or give me several, because
No.
I know.
Top three, maybe.
So
top
many.
three.
So many. I mean, I did love Africa. I lived in Cameroon, Uganda, and Senegal, and it was a real eye-opener to me. It wasn't always the easiest of countries to live in, but I loved the people. I loved the expanse. I loved the wildness of it, and I loved that connection actually with nature, right? They live literally in accordance to nature. And I'm talking about local people, not fancy expats in nice houses who can have strawberries and whatever. But if you just follow the beauty. So yes, Africa. I love Chile. I want to go back a lot more to Latin America. I mean, all the countries, I have a favorite spot in France, which is Brittany, which is a very wild place, which is the only place that I've known, well, basically since I was 7. So that's nine. So that's a very important place for me. That's a anchor, let's say. I go back every year disregarding where I live or how far. But I still sometimes think, to take a chicken way out, that my favorite spot, I might not yet have discovered it.
Oh, I love it.
You need to come visit me. So.
Yes.
Yes.
Tammy's spot is beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh, I'd love to.
There's so many beautiful spots in this world. So do you like to go to the ocean? Do you like to
Yeah, as a general rule, I am more an ocean
about hiking and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But everything's beautiful. I mean, mountains are beautiful for the perspective they give and that fresh air. Forests are beautiful for that humid, almost grotto. I feel like I'm connected to the womb of nature sort of thing. But I am, in general, I'm very much a beach person. I love the sea in all levels, in all seasons, and I love swimming in it, particularly when it's very rough and freezing cold.
Have you been to the Caribbean? To the Caribbean? That's where I'm from.
Oh, yeah. So let me see. So where are you from?
I am from Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, yeah. So wait a minute. Let me see. Caribbean. Where have I been in Caribbean?
There's Cuba, Dominican Republic.
Yes, Cuba, of course. I've been to Cuba and I loved Cuba.
Yeah.
Cuba, I've been there for a very long time. I really, really loved Cuba. I think maybe from the Caribbean part, Cuba might be the only one.
Yeah, so you're a mermaid like us. Tammy and I,
we
love the
water.
ocean.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like when Lori was here, my husband was like, "Oh, where do you want to go?" And we're like, has to have water, a lake, a stream, waterfall, something,
Yeah, something to do with water. I'm very lucky because I divorced and now I've been 10 years with actually somebody I knew at high school who I didn't see for 35 years, a French guy from the French lycée here in The Hague, and he's passionate. He's a huge kite surfer, foiler, etc. So he too, we live literally, I mean, the sea's a kilometer probably from us. I can see it from here. Wow. Not now, pitch black, but yeah, it says Holland though, right? So we're not talking about the Caribbean. It's a different sea.
It's still good. It's still
But
great.
it's still
Yeah,
beautiful. You know, there's
it
just
is.
something
It
about when
is.
you go and you just like get to the beach, those waves, the
Yeah.
sounds, the
That
smells.
smell, that
It's
sting
just
on your
like,
skin. I
oh
love
my
it.
gosh, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, it's so, to me,
Yeah.
it's so amazing. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, oh,
And when
what
I get overwhelmed, I imagine that I'm washing away whatever. And that's also
Hmm.
why I finish my shower freezing cold every day. It's a bit the same effect if I can't swim in the sea, because now at the moment it's too dark in the morning and I want to be behind my computer at 9, so I can't. But then I do turn the freezing cold, and then I swim at weekends. It's less of a swim as it gets freezing cold. It's more of a, frantic dive around and jump around for 5 minutes and then out again. But yes,
But adapting and doing those adjustments just to
yeah,
make it happen, I love it. I
yeah,
love it. And you're leading
yeah,
by example, Julie. We've
yeah.
love to have you. We love to have this conversation, and we
Thank you.
appreciate your nuggets of wisdom
Thank
and
you.
your insights. If you have some closing remarks, I really particularly love the fact that you said, come what may, that we need to be ready and embrace the experiences we've had to be victors instead of victims, and
Yeah,
then to be ready for what's next, right? Because life
yeah.
is going to happen to us. So, any closing remarks to our
Well, I guess the only
audience?
thing I would say is for anybody, regardless of what age, do what I call a wheel of life. Look at your life right now in various areas, your health, your friends, your work, where you live, etc. Make a state of, okay, how good is this for me right now? And whichever areas you feel need to change, or just anything that you know needs to change, make it happen. So it's really change what you can change and embrace the rest. And
love it.
that makes us happy, right? We
It
Lovely.
can do it. We
does.
can do so much more than we think. Just do it.
We can. Hey, all three of us, you know, like you said, we used to do more paper stuff and it was
Yeah,
different. Now we're online more and
yeah,
we've learned how to embrace it and use it.
yeah,
It's challenges at times,
yeah.
but it's like I know people out there, you can do it.
But
It's
with ever any challenge came the advantage that we can all be in completely different places over the world and still be on Zoom and be connected
Oh,
together
yes,
to our values and our life philosophy. And I find that hugely empowering.
it is.
yes.
It is.
And
Life,
we
life
never
taught
used to
us.
have that, you know?
Yeah. A couple
It's
of years ago, we made the best out of a circumstance we were put under in the
Exactly.
world, and
Exactly.
we have embraced it. And I mean, there's so much goodness that have come. There, nothing
Yes.
changes the in-person experience, of course, but
Yeah.
this is amazing because absolutely, there's no other way we'd have gotten to know each other, right? So
Exactly.
it is
For
great.
which I'm very grateful. So thank you very much, both of you, for having had me here, and looking forward to yeah, anytime. And I will
yeah,
look
we're gonna
forward to
have to have
following your
you
next
back on. You've been amazing, Julie.
anytime. I love it.
Loved it.
All for the best. Take
Uh,
care. Thank
and I
you.
want to
Bye-bye.
say thank you to each person that is watching and make sure you share and like. And if you have any questions, please put them down in the comments and we will follow up. And of course, you can find more about us or the different services we offer on unlockingfreedominnature.com. So anything else, Lori?
And no, we're gonna also have Julie's information everywhere in our postings, and so you can reach her too. And thank you so much for watching. And remember to discover, experience, because you're gonna
Transform.
transform. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye bye.